Professor Jim Schultz here from my Finance 680 class. I thought I would go ahead and get this Chapter 14 video put together. I'm going to go through number 13 from Chapter 14. This is absolutely one of the beefier problems. This thing's kind of a beast in terms of what you need to do to solve this problem. So this is more than what you can expect for one problem on the final exam, but you know, the essence and the spirit of the problem makes it extremely good practice. So in number 13, here's all the information. Let's scroll up a little bit. Here's all the information you are given in the problem. So I'm not going to recite that, but this is all the information that you're given, so we just kind of write all that down. And obviously, you know, there's 93% of par, 104% of par. I mean, this all tells you how to get to the bond's price, the bond's value, which will come into play here in a minute, but I just wanted to point that out. And so the first thing you want to do in this problem is you want to solve for the yield to maturity on both bonds, right? Now, I'm not sure if the problem says this or not, but the assumption here is that the company might be issuing new debt, so your yield to maturity is going to be your cost of debt. And so it's not going to be a coupon rate, it's going to be the yield to maturity. And so we need to solve for the yield to maturity on each one of these guys, right? And so of course you do so using the standard time value money keys on your calculator. And so the yield to maturity or cost of debt for bond 1 comes out to be 7.68, and then the yield to maturity for bond 2 comes out to be 7.16, right? Once you find those two numbers, you then proceed to finding the total market value of each bond. Now, there's $70 million of the first bond in face value. That's also given in the problem. I don't have it up here, but I remember this is given in the problem. So if the bond is selling for 93% of par, and this is par, then 93% of this number will give you the total market value of the first bond. And the second bond is found in a similar fashion, right? So it's going to be 104% of 55 million. You guys might be able to hear my cats in the background, so I apologize for that. They're kind of feisty in the morning. Just disregard anything you hear in the background. So these are the two market values for each bond respectively. And so then you need to find the weight of each bond. So, you know, across your total menu of debt, how much in a weighted sense does your first bond represent? How much in a weighted sense does your second bond represent? Right? And so this is how you find your two weights. Obviously the market value of bond 1 divided by the total market value of both bonds. Same thing for bond 2. Right? Then you move into the cost of equity phase of this problem. And you're given a bunch of dividend information, growth information. So obviously you're going to want to use the dividend discount model, which is R is equal to dy plus G. Right? That's this formula right here. And so this guy comes out to be 12.4%. Obviously, you're given D0, so you got to find D1. Things we've done a lot to this point. Then you want to find your total value of the firm. This would be V. This is E. This is D. This would be V. We already found D from up here. It's 122,300,000. E is simply the current share price times the number of shares outstanding. So it's 748 million. So when you add these two guys together, you get 870,300,000, right? So then you need to find, once you know V and E and D, you need to find the weight of E and the weight of D. The way that we normally have written this in class would be, this would be E over V and this would be D over V. But for this solution I used the W's instead, but it doesn't really matter. The weight of equity is going to be 85.95%. It's found by taking 748 million divided by the 870,300,000, and then the debt is found the same way using the debt number divided by the total, right? So then you have your weights. Now, what you want to do next is I really could have done this part up here, but okay. So I started this problem by finding the cost of debt for the first bond and the cost of debt for the second bond. what you now need to find is your total cost of debt. So it's going to be your cost of debt for the first bond times the weight of your first bond as it relates to both bonds, which we already found that number was up here, right? And then you add on to that the cost of debt for the second bond times the weight of the second bond relative to both bonds. So your total cost of debt is 7.44%. That, of course, is a before tax number because we have not taken into account the tax savings on the debt financing. So once you get to this point, you're actually one step away from finishing the problem. Now you have everything you need to plug all this into the standard WACC formula, where that's your weight of equity, that's your cost of equity, that's your weight of debt, that's your cost of debt, and that is 1 minus t. And so when you knock that through, you get 11.34%. That is your WACC. And so this was how to solve number 13 from chapter 14, an outstanding problem. I have a feeling that we may be going through this tonight face-to-face for the review session as well. And so I hope this was helpful for you guys.